There have been numerous games over the years that took the gaming industry in a new direction. There is a multitude of other games that could have been put on this list, but we've pared it down to just 10 that we believe were the most influential on gameplay mechanics, graphics, and user experiences. As technologies continue to expand, so too will the games that deserve a spot on this list. Today, we have the list of the 10 video games that helped to revolutionize the gaming industry and its users' experiences forever. Number 10. Minecraft. Many games claimed to be sandbox games before Minecraft. Advertisements for games like Grand Theft Auto claimed that players could travel anywhere and do anything. But there was always a storyline. In so-called sandbox games, players were almost always required to play through a storyline. That is, until Minecraft came along. The appeal of Minecraft's gameplay is that it is entirely user-generated, thanks to the sandbox environment. In the Minecraft world, players can create whatever they want. This feature alone is enough to entice players to return. Minecraft's open-world ingenuity has only been bolstered with the advent of multiplayer and player mods. Because of its popularity, some game designers have abandoned the notion that players require rigid limits, such as narratives and quests. Instead, video games with outstanding core gameplay that blends innovation and engagement can provide gamers with replay value. Number 9. Simcity. In 1989, the first version of Simcity was released. Version 3.1 of Windows had not yet been released to the general public, which would happen 3 years later. The first game in the series, SimCity, was published by Maxis in 1989 and sparked the creation of several sequels and many other spin-off Sim titles, including the 2000s The Sims, which itself became a best-selling computer game and franchise. One of the unanticipated good results of SimCity was that it gave players the impression that they had control over the game, and that the outcome could be almost ensured by following a set of steps. Because they were so good at SimCity, many people abruptly changed their real-life professional choices to city planning. Number 8. Braid. Developers and fans are still discussing whether video games can be called art thanks to the independent game Braid. Furthermore, Braid established that video games might be considered art. The gaming market was saturated with AAA titles in 2008, all of which repeated the same old, stale gameplay. Major gaming studios were making a lot of money off of cliched game designs and drab art direction. To maintain a constant stream of cash, most corporations played it safe and stuck to tried and true genres. Then came the launch of Xbox Live's indie gaming store. As an indie developer, Braid creator Jonathan Blow takes risks in gameplay, level design, visual direction, and user experience. Braid's popularity on Xbox Live influenced game production to return to lone, work-from-home developers for monolithic programming, art, and design teams. Number 7. Tetris. When the tile-matching puzzle game invented by a Russian game designer and released in 1984 became hugely popular, it marked a watershed moment in the history of video games in a variety of ways. It was the first piece of entertainment software to be exported from the Soviet Union to the United States, as far as we know. It became one of the most extensively downloaded and played video games of all time after its 1989 release on the Game Boy. Virtually every video gaming console, computer operating system, and mobile device on the market are compatible with the application. Number 6. Final Fantasy VII. In today's game industry, role-playing games, RPGs, are another popular genre. Square Enix's Final Fantasy VII set the standard for the role-playing genre, similar to ID Software's breakthrough game, Wolfenstein 3D. RPGs were not nearly as popular as when Final Fantasy VII launched in the United States 10 years ago. Final Fantasy VII is frequently credited with popularizing RPGs in the American video game market. For the first time, a meaningful take and relatable characters captured American audiences. And they weren't the only ones. The plot, combined with the game's unique controls, won over gamers all around the world. Final Fantasy VII has sold over 6 million copies worldwide, and is widely regarded as the peak of video game storytelling. Final Fantasy VII demonstrated to the game industry how to turn an interactive story with action and adventure into a worldwide phenomena. Number 5. PacMan. The majority of games, at the time PacMan was released, were about annihilation. The majority of the games were either World War II themed or combat-oriented. This was a game that didn't fit into any of the categories. There was no way to fire a firearm. It was outrun your pursuers until you've built up the strength to pursue them. And what it truly accomplished was to alter the societal discourse surrounding arcades. For the first time, women and children, both boys and girls, coexisted in arcades that were previously dominated by older adolescent and adult males. It drastically altered the communication and social contract established by arcades. It made it easier for everyone to participate in arcade culture. Number 4. Mortal Kombat. Before Mortal Kombat, video games could imitate ripping out hearts, with the Entertainment Software Rating Board giving them an M rating, ESRB. In 1999, there was no video game regulatory board in the United States. Theoretically, developers could create any style of game, complete with blood, death, and gore. Although it's unlikely that Mortal Kombat's creators intended for the game to generate a national debate over violence in video games, opponents of the industry used the game's fatality feature to call for the establishment of the ESRB. Nobody controlled who could buy violent video games at the time, and Mortal Kombat became the poster child for why games should be regulated, similarly to movies and music. The ESRB now assigns ratings based on how old a person must be to purchase a game. Number 3. Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 is credited with inventing the 3D platformer genre, laying the groundwork for hundreds of games to follow, including the usage of the analog stick and camera controls. Mario, Nintendo's mascot, had been stuck in the side-scrolling genre until Mario 64. In 1996, Nintendo accomplished the seemingly impossible by successfully transitioning their mascot to a fully 3D game for the first time. Players could make Mario jump, flip, run like an Olympic gymnast, or shift the camera view for a better viewpoint, using the Nintendo 64's new analog stick. While Super Mario 64 didn't try many new things that hadn't been seen before in a Mario game, it did replicate important features and blow them up to massive, larger-than-life proportions. Number 2. Wolfenstein 3D. One of the most popular gaming genres is first-person shooters. There were few FPS games on the market when Wolfenstein 3D was released in 1993. The game's creators, John Carmack, Tom Hall, and John Romero, had huge plans for their business ID Software, but they couldn't have predicted that they'd set the bar for an entire genre. Romero, Hall, and Carmack intended to create a fast-paced, action-packed shooter that was a touch more aggressive than previous games in the genre. As a result, most developers believe it to be the prototype for run-and-gun video games. Following that, nearly every video game in the genre, including Romero, Hall, and Carmack's own Doom, utilized the Wolfenstein 3D design model. Without Wolfenstein 3D's original gameplay, the FPS genre would not be what it is today. Number 1. Pong. There was no game industry before Pong. In 1972, video games were not yet a multi-billion-dollar industry. Arcade games and home game systems earned pitiful earnings at the time. In fact, 3 years later, when the home version of Pong was debuted, consumer analysis still didn't believe video games would ever be popular, especially as home good. Pong's creators proved them wrong. The Pong cabinet game was such a hit that its creators, Nolan Bushnell, Alan Alcorn, and Ted Dabney, decided to produce a home version under the Atari name. What occurred next was unheard of. The home version of Pong became an overnight sensation. It is regarded as the game that established the industry, having sold 150,000 systems during the 1975 Christmas season. Pong demonstrated to the rest of the world that games have a place in people's hearts and brains. There are no telling what innovations are yet to come in the video game industry. One thing's for sure, developers have to make creative video games to keep audiences interested. Which of these games have you tried before? Please share it in the comments below. Give us a like and subscribe to our channel, District 10 TV, for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.